Now we're down to the character design layout, and for this we're going to be using Autodesk Sketchbook Pro. So I started off with a canvas which I rotated around, and the canvas, as you can see, is now portrait, and I've turned on the mirroring function. I'm going to use a pencil to start with. I'm just going to draw straight out onto the new layer, and because we've got the mirror function on, as you can see, we can what we do on one side happens on the other side. So I'm going to start by sketching out a rough version of a skeleton, and as this is going to be a humanoid figure, it'll fit quite nicely. And the great thing about Autodesk Sketchbook Pro is that you should have access to it straight away, because you can get it from your student download page. And it's a simple drawing package that you can use. So I'm marking now where I want the major joints to go. This is just marqueing up and scaling back. Now, when you're using Sketchbook Pro, everything is context sensitive. So when you've got a tool selected, it happens in front of the cursor. It's a great way of doing designing, and it's used for automobile design and lots of other things. So I'm just sketching out where I think the proportions should go. Now I'm probably building this to about a 7 head high, which is a little bit big for what I actually want. And what we've got then is I need to start filling in some of the details. So we're going to build in the pelvis. I'm going to add where the obliques will go. Building now where the bottom of the groin will be, and working out where the navel would come in. So it's just a case of sketching and pulling around, adding where the ribs would go, make sure the rib cage comes in, and into the muscles in the side of the abdominal muscles. So as you can see, it's very quick. We're using a Wacom tablet, and I'm just going to doodle around and just use it because I've got symmetry on, just doodling around, just finding the shape, so immediately I can get a good idea for what the size of the character is going to be. Now obviously I can't quite fit some of this character in, and I think the legs are looking a little bit long, so I'm just going to draw in where the kneecap is, down past the tibia and fibia, building in the muscles at the back. And I can see I need to make a bit of a design change here, so I'm just going to use the select tool, the rectangular select tool. I've just drawn that in the wrong place, so I'll just redraw that. Just a little X you can see on the context sensitive menu, and then using the context sensitive menu I'm just going to scale this down a little bit. There we go, and then I'm going to scale it up. If you look in the top portion, I'm just going to scale it upwards. So I've kept the overall height and just move those around a bit. And then I'm going to change where the knees are. I'm going to make those smaller. Again, just drag select and begin to scale and move. So you can see that we've got a lot of control, and it's all design. We're not working in anything other than the design process here. So I'm building the character as I go along. Just sketching up and then scaling the character back. Just going to turn on symmetry again, and the great thing about this package is you can have symmetry on and off as and when you need it. It's a brilliant little tool, and it doesn't affect when symmetry is off. So what I'm going to do now is just finish sketching out this. Okay, now I'm going to use some of the design tools. So I'm going to use an elliptical tool. Excuse me. And this elliptical tool is great because what I can do is I can just draw around the outside edge and scale the lines in. and this is just going to give me some idea of how far down the arm is going to drop. So again, good for when you're making up your character ideas. So now I've got probably a good length on the arms. I'm just going to detail in some of this. So I'm just going to hold down the space bar and scale in. I'm going to zoom in a bit further. Just bring in the nose. Now the DPI is a little bit off now. Could do with increasing the DPI on this. But this is just a little sketch, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to add some of these little details, just so I get an idea for the general size and shape of a MacFeagle. Adding a little bit of character. And if I was to build this all the way up to the edge, I would spend a lot more time on this. But this is just a demonstration, just to show you some of these tools. So I think we need to move on now and have a look at some of the colour we can add. So we're going to have a quick look at the colour. Just finish these sketches. And what we're going to do when we look at the colour, we're going to look at some layers and how we just move through the layers very quickly. It's not like Photoshop, it's not got tons and tons of things that you need to consider. So bring in the layers, and just click, select, add a new layer, and we're going to just use a marker pen. I'm just going to paint the colour of the MacFeagle in and turn off symmetry. So I can just colour this in all the way through. And this is just to give you an idea. I mean, this is not needed or required for the design process, but it's a good way of working through it. So I'm just going to colour this up, and what we're going to do is we're going to use an airbrush tool, and we're also going to I'm just going to show you a few tricks using the eraser to clean up lines and line selections, things like that. Here we're bringing in the eraser and just using this little gimbal tool there just to scale down the eraser. Just click and drag, scale it down. Turn on the symmetry tool, and then just allows me to get the symmetry working on both sides as I rub out these little bits and pieces. You see how it cleans up the edges. And this is a hark back to the designers where they would use airbrushes and they would rub out little bits and pieces. Just going to add another layer now, because what we're going to do is work the airbrush over the top. So I'm going to use the airbrush just to add some shade, some dark shade to it. And I'm going to select some lighter colours as well. Just adding some highlights now. Again, just to highlight the process of how we can add second layers. And then we'll just clean these layers up with the eraser. Just a few bits of cleaning up left to do. So unlike Photoshop, when you're using a package like Sketchbook Pro, you have a much more you have more freedom in your design process, and you can use this to freehand some of your drawings. You don't have to use symmetry. This is just great for getting an idea and an angle on most of the things that we need. So I'm just going to turn off some of these layers. So if you're just clicking these layers now, you'll be able to see how we've been able to add the shading. So I'm just going to hide the front layer, and you can see the shading that we've got on there. It gives us an idea of sort of like the design process. And I'm just going to dial back the transparency of the top layer. And then what I'm going to do is add another layer over the top and just use the ballpoint pen. I'm going to choose a blue and start adding some details. So you see that gives us much better light and darkness just using that that ballpoint pen. Okay, we can do all night on this, so I'm just going to just move on to the next drawing. This is the one that we use for the design. I've put this up on Facebook already, so you can probably see this on the Facebook channel. There you go. So I'm going to move to the other design. I'm not going to save this. Okay, and here's the design now that I'm going to bring this in. And what I've done is I've done a side view as well as a front view. And we've also got the original concept art, so I can explain this a little bit more. Alright, so I worked out that the concept art that I'd drawn was 6 head high, and this is probably about right because I obviously did the drawing over a 10-year-old, my son. And here's the 6 heads making up this character, and I've used the projected lines, the ruler tools to just project out to either side. And underneath, just so I got a good idea, I brought up a layer that got some of the concept art for character design reference imagery, and used a head, so I got the proportions in the right place, and then scaled that back. So this next thing now is we'll save it out as a TIFF image, and we'll open this up in Photoshop and we'll be able to then cut it up and get it ready for going into Maya, which will be the next video.